Hi, my name is Destiny Dana, and this is my fourth trimester story. So, when I got pregnant, I mean, we were expecting a baby, we wanted a baby, but the time when he came, when the pregnancy was found out, was a bit inconvenient, I'd say, or a bit unplanned. So it was just about the time when we were about to relocate. I was supposed to come for masters, relocated, come for masters in the UK. Um, and I literally just found out. And very honestly, I was sort of, I don't know, unhappy. Don't know why. Can't really say why, but I was very much unhappy. And I believe very strongly that that's when that sadness that I felt set a precedent for what happened in the entirety of my pregnancy, which is going to be shared some other time, like the pregnancy journey, which was a hurdle on its own, into the first trimester, like post-pregnancy, postpartum, and that's what I want to share. So I gave birth to my baby on the 21st of April, 2024, and um everything was going fine. Everything was literally going fine. Um until I got to the hospital. Prior to that day, like the week of that day that I gave birth to him, I had gone to the hospital just for like the normal checks that I've been going for, and then they found out that my blood pressure was a bit high. It wasn't terribly high. It was about 140. And they quickly sent me to the hospital. They checks, monitored my blood pressure for a while. It came down, but it was a worry for them. But afterwards, I was fine, nothing and all. Um, then on day of delivery rather, sorry, on day of delivery, I figured that on day of delivery, after we got to the hospital, an ambulance had to come because I had a history of like a little bit of high blood pressure and some other things that happened during pregnancy. So an ambulance had to come pick me up. They came pick me up. I got to the hospital. Labor. I had already been in labor for since about 4 a.m. in the morning. Ambulance came around, say, we called for the ambulance around 8. Ambulance came, say, around like 10. I'm not particularly sure right now, around 10. And then got to the hospital. I was in labor all this time, so since 4 a.m. to like all of those times. And then around about 12, I was in so much pain, and I was still just 1 centimeter dilated or 2 centimeters dilated. I'm not very certain anymore. 1 or 2 centimeters dilated, and they offered to give me Peterson, and I rejected at first, but the pain was so much, was so much that I had to call the nurse back and I asked for it, and barely, I'm not even joking, like barely 10 minutes after I had Peterson, um, the water broke. My water broke, and after my water broke, called for the nurse. They checked me out, only to find out that there was meconium. It's one of those, meconium or neconium, in the water that broke, meaning that my baby here had pooed. He was in distress, and he had pooed. When they found that out, when he found that out, that was when everything just started. I had nurses running, doctors coming in, and then they had to tell me, they told me that I had to do like an emergency C-section. Prior to that, like, my blood pressure had started to spike again. Baby's blood pressure too was beginning to spike. So they told me I had to do an emergency C-section. So it happened so fast. Within about 30 minutes, I didn't have so much time to think about it. So doctors came in, anesthetician came in, and decided to read out these agreements with me. One thing, one thing, one thing. There's a risk of this. There's a risk of that. There's a risk of blah 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 blah. And it was just happening at once, and I'm like, okay, yes, okay, yes, okay. And finally, it was happening. 30 minutes later, I was being wheeled to the emergency, to the theater. Um, it didn't take long. They gave me um the anesthetics, and it didn't take long. Baby was out, fine, and all. Remember when I said I sort of was sad at being a pregnancy when I found out? So like, just to collapse everything, I was basically a bit sad the entirety of pregnancy. Quite unsure. I don't want to go into those details, but yeah, I so when baby came out, I was happy. I was happy, but my mind was like, okay, so this is it. Okay, 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 and I wasn't particularly happy or ecstatic about it. So yeah, but I was very ecstatic about it. I was happy. I love my son. I was happy and everything, but it was just this. There's just this cloud of sadness around me, and yeah, just to put that on the side. Then after that, everything went fine. My blood pressure stabilized. It was okay. It was fine. I was then wheeled to the recovery ward where there were like other mothers there, and all. First day was okay. That evening it was fine. It was fine, and all. I was beginning to like even get a hang of things. Changed for nappy, did all of that, breastfeeding. Oh, my baby latched on like the easiest first attempt, and he latched on and he was sucking, and I was lactating already. It was beautiful, but when I moved to that word, first day, like I said, was okay. Second day, it was when the was when the saga really started. Was when the saga really started because in that word, there were four mothers who were just giving birth, myself inclusive, and was it 4 or 5? I think 4. Yeah, there were 4 mothers who were just giving birth, and oof, babies were just crying all over. They were just crying and crying and crying the entire night. Like we all barely had any sleep. My baby first 2 3 nights he was a charming prince, a charming prince. He didn't cry. He was eating. He didn't cry and all. And but then afterwards, second day, um, I just began to get stressed out, and just to note that because of all the cries, I hadn't slept at all. That's when I began to feel the stress and all. I remember I just had a C-section. I was in pain and all of that. So I began to feel the stress of it. First day, didn't sleep. Second day, a little. Third day, didn't sleep. And it just continued like that. So, like, I was supposed to be discharged, let go out of hospital on the third day. Uh, and by the time they came in, they were like, have you emptied your bowels? And I'm like, no, I haven't used the toilet and all that. So they're like, oh, they can't let me go on to like do that. And so I had to start taking laxatives. I still didn't poop until the next day, until like the fourth day. So by the first day, by the third day, blood pressure was still a bit high. It was starting to get high again, because I was really stressed out. I hadn't slept. I was anxious. I was sad, and also it was just impacting. And there was no pain. I was just fuzzy. I had like brain fog. I wasn't really aware of what was happening around me. So yeah, my first day, third day was already rising up, and accompanied with the fact that I hadn't emptied my bowels, they didn't let me go. First day, blood pressure because it just went high because I hadn't slept well for 4 days. per se. And then the doctors started to come in. They're like, "Oh, this is pretty high. We can't let you go." Blah 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 blah. So I was trying to insist that I wanted to go. But then they started to list out complications that could happen. Doctors are like, you could have a stroke, you could have a heart attack, you could, what else they say? You could have brain damage, you could, and it was just the list of, and this thing was so annoying because every single day I'd have doctors come in, and they would repeat all of these symptoms to me. Imagine someone who hadn't slept. I wasn't processing things well. My brain was foggy. I was really just tired, and they just kept coming in saying that. And as they continued to say that, the blood pressure continued to spike and spike and spike. And I kept telling them, I haven't slept. Please, can you let me get somewhere where I could sleep, away from babies, away from the cries? And nobody heard me. Nobody listened to me until about the fifth day. Yeah, fifth day, when it was already like really high. It was about, at this point in time, it was about 168. My blood pressure reading was about 168 as at this time. And that was when they started to listen to me. They managed to get like a private word, but even when I got into the private word, I still couldn't sleep because I was anxious, and I had started to get into this fits of worry about all the things that they had listed out to me. My mind had soaked them in. And yeah, so at that time when I got into the private ward, it even became worse. Like, it was reading 170, 180, and I just had fleet of doctors coming in, nurses coming in, checking on me. If you know how the recovery ward in UK is, it's silly because they have nurses coming in every single minute, every single hour, minutes, but sometimes checking on you. Oh, have you slept? How am I supposed to sleep when you're coming in? I appreciate it; they're really nice, but how am I supposed to sleep when you're coming in, and all of that? So yeah, so they kept coming in, fleets of nurses, fleets of doctors, and before I knew what was happening, by the sixth day, I had like, they moved me back to they moved back to the, I think, the delivery suite. They moved me back to the delivery suite so that the doctors there could manage me, since they had my records and all. So by the sixth day, I had doctors from every other department just coming in. People were just coming in. I had people from hematology coming in. I had people from cardiology coming in. I had just different departments just coming in. It was different doctors, different nurses, and all of that. By the sixth day, my blood pressure was just reading 200. It was 198, 180, 200, and everybody, they were all like, so they had this look on their faces, and it was so it was so scary for me. And yeah, so that's the sixth day, and oof, it was crazy because I still wasn't sleeping. I put on headphones, and um listen to music. You know, these videos on YouTube where I talk about anxiety, relieving anxiety, and music for anxiety, music for relaxing, for calm. My it didn't work. Like, I kept trying and trying and trying things just to note that when I say I hadn't slept, not a drop of sleep for about let's see, when I think Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So 5 days. 5 days, yeah. 4 days, I think 4 days. 4 days, yeah. I hadn't slept at all. At all. I had people, my sister was around. She's like, please sleep. I'm trying to sleep. I can't sleep because I just had this thing ringing in my head. What they were saying, your blood pressure is high, stroke, heart attack, brain damage, this, that. And yeah, you know what happens when you haven't slept? Your mind becomes fickle. Your mind becomes so, like, if it goes from like this sick, to about like a plain single sheet of paper. So my mind became fickle, and some sort of fear just entered into me. Fear is a torment. So a sort of fear just entered into my heart, and that's the very actual very beginning of like the spiral down for me. By the sixth day, I was actually just retired and of staying in the hospital. I had just had a baby. I hadn't had time to take care of him and all of that. So I told the doctors that I told my husband that I really just wanted to leave the hospital and just go and just leave. And they're like, no, they can't release me. And I'm like, I can't stay here. I cannot stay here. They started to list out the risks again, blah this, blah that, blah do. And I'm like, thank you, but I cannot. I was scared of doing it, but I did it. Then we went back home on the seventh day. So I had stayed 7 days in the hospital. Went back home on the seventh day, and that was after they had kept me up all, literally not their intention, but they had kept me up all night trying different things. I think at the point I had they gave me some tablets to take, and I had like 10 different tablets in my hand. It was a combination of paracetamol, codeine, blood pressure medications, different ones. So in a day, I could take up to like 20 tablets, 25 tablets. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. Well, let me not say 25, maybe like 20 tablets. And just with different things, they were trying. I felt like a guinea pig. They were just trying different things on me. So that night, they did that, gave me different tablets to try and they tried IVs, they tried this, they tried that, and finally came down to about 48 ish, and they still mentioned that they were like skeptical and blah blah blah, but they gave me medications to go home, and I did go home. But I came back that same evening because, like I said, fear had gotten into my mind, and anxiety had gotten into my mind. So I want to use this time to explain how anxiety works. So anxiety is terrible. You know what the Bible says? Be anxious for nothing, but in everything through prayers and supplications, make your request known to God. That scripture is absolutely important because, uh, like the Holy Spirit made me understand, anxiety is self-preservation. Anxiety is self-salvation. It's self-focus, focusing on yourself, taking away focus from God, and trying to supply for yourself, trying to be there for yourself, trying to solve things for yourself. So yeah. So like I was saying, I just became very much anxious. So when I got back home, still went back to the hospital that same day because I was now looking out for symptoms in my body. So I was looking out for I was looking out for like numbness in my body. And how anxiety works is that you start you don't have you especially when it comes to like sicknesses, you don't have the sickness, but your the anxiety sends a signal to your body to your brain, and your brain begins to transmit those symptoms. Ah, so I began to that day when we got back home, I began to feel like I just felt this sensation around like a part of my face, a part of my arm just felt like stiff. I couldn't move and all of that. I called the emergency line, and they had told me to go to the hospital again. Went back to the hospital, doctors checked me, and they're like, "You're fine." And I came back home, but that fear that had gotten into my mind was still there. And yeah, so 2 days after, I went to my sister's place to stay there. Um, I went to my sister's place, stayed there for about 4 weeks. Um, but the first 3 weeks of 6 weeks rather, but the first 4 weeks of the 6 weeks that I stayed there was crazy. It was a torment. It was my like I said, my mind had become fickle. So these were the things that were happening. So I would literally just sit down and hear voices in my head. just tell me you're going to die. Yeah, like you're going to die. Like your time is up. You're done for. Um, you're nothing. You're not important. You're like just not you, baby. You're very important. You're something. Like telling me things like that. Those were things I was hearing voices in my head. It was really scary. Remember, I still wasn't sleeping very much. I'd close my eyes, listen to music. I still wasn't sleeping, but then I realized that it began to improve. I was getting better, and the things that really helped me get better were confessions. I had to pray about them every day. I read out confessions, and I just was speaking to my mind, and yeah, I got better. I got better. I got really much better. After about 4 weeks, went back to the hospital. I was still on medication. Went back to the hospital. They checked my blood pressure. It was normal, 118/72. It was beautiful. It was normal, and yeah, I went back feeling like I was ready. I went back feeling like I was ready to conquer the world and start my life all over again. I was taking care of my baby better and all of that. I felt very ambitious and ready for to move on with life. 2 weeks later, I came back home to be my husband, and then I had this pain, a little pain in my section site, and I had booked an appointment with doctors, and I went there, and she checked my blood pressure, and it was high again. It was high again, but I didn't have an understanding of what was going on then, but that was the start of another round of troubles for me, because that's when like the real heat actually started, and that lasted for about 2 months, 8 more weeks. Gosh, that's about 8 weeks, 8 weeks ish. So when I went to the hospital, they said it's high. I came back home. I was dejected. That fear that I was beginning to dissipate, that fear that had gone a bit, came back, and I just started to feel like, oh my God, am I going to go through what I went through in the hospital again? Am I going to am I going to die? Am I going to have a stroke? Am I going to have a heart attack? Am I going to have a heart attack? Am I going to have all of these things that they said? And I sort of just slid into this sort of depression, like, why am I going through this? Like, why is this happening to me? And I'd go online, I'd see people who were having like, who looked like they were having beautiful times with their families and their babies. I went to a post of a lady who said she was 45 days after post-pregnancy, and she was ready to have another baby. I'm like, oh, how? And it was just very crazy for me. So yeah, that was the start of that. So anxiety, depression kicked in, and as a result of thinking about like, am I going to go back to how it was at the hospital? Is this going to even calm down at all? And so yeah, depression kicked in, and I want to just emphasize that I feel that things like depression, anxiety, insomnia, yeah, so they are linked up. So this is how it worked. This is how it played out in my case. I started to get depressed about what happened, and then I couldn't sleep because I was worried about like all of the things that were going on. Then I got into anxiety. I'm like, oh, I cannot. How is this going to be in control? Is this going to work out? Is that? And then at some point, it felt like it wasn't working. All the drugs they were giving me were not working. Oh, I'm doing everything possible, like it's not working. And then I started to feel suicidal. I'm like, what's the point? What's the point of me leaving and all that? But I just want to explain that because that's how it played out. So the after I came back from the checkup at the hospital, sorry, my love. That's how things started to play out. I'd literally be sitting down, and the voices that I was hearing prior became like times 1,000. I'd sit down, and it would look like I'm just quiet, or I just want to have some time to myself and all. But no, I was literally fighting battles inside of me. It was a battle for my mind, and like I was telling a friend, it was literally like I was running mad. And I was saying her that I understand how, like, you just see mad people on the streets, and they just look mute and quiet. But if you knew the turmoil that was going on inside their minds, the battles, voices, uh, so I'd have like, I'm not even joking, I'd have like 20 thoughts in a second. Oh, you're crazy. Oh, you're mad. Oh, this is the end for you. This is the end of you. Oh, this, oh, this, oh, that, oh, that. And it was crazy because I was countering all of those thoughts in my head, one after the other. So imagine in 1 second you're saying someone is, just imagine that in 1 second you're hearing, oh, you're not important, oh, you're stupid, you're this, you're that, you're this. And as you're hearing, oh, you're not important, you're saying, I'm replying, I'm very important, I'm the light of the world, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that, I'm that. And it got to the point where the literal mention of some words would just, sorry, my love, the literal mention of some words would just trigger me. It got to the point where you'd be talking about how someone died, and my brain would sort of interpret it that, oh, you're next, this is you, and it was silly. I know how fickle and silly this sounds as I'm saying it, but it was real. And this is what happens when people have anxiety, chronic anxiety. I did not have a drop of sleep for nearly a week. So yeah, I was calling an ambulance every other day, and it was just I'd go to the hospital, and anytime I heard any of those words, anything negative per se, at a point it became that it just needed to be anything negative. um like, okay, you're talking about, I couldn't even engage in conversations anymore because I was so down. I was literally at my lowest. I was literally at my lowest, and I couldn't engage in conversations because my mind was misinterpreting things, or interpreting everything to mean it was about me. So when I talk about anxiety and I say that it is self-preservation, it is self-focus, that's what I mean. So my mind was literally interpreting things. You talk about, oh, someone died, and I think it was me. You talk about how someone had like an illness, some sort of illness that could possibly never even happen to me. Maybe it happened to a man, and it happens only to men, and my mind would interpret that it was going to happen to me. So, and anytime I had any of those thoughts, I would just have a fear in my heart, and I'd have this pain in my chest. This pain in my chest was so bad, so terribly bad. It was so terribly bad and painful that I couldn't sleep. And when I'm trying to sleep at night, or at all, I would just feel this pain. I would hear my chest pounding I would hear my heart pounding in my chest, like palpitations, and I would hear my heartbeats in my ears. It was so, my heartbeat was so loud in my ears. I could literally hear my heartbeat in my ears, and it was crazily loud and scary. I felt like my heart was going to just explode. It was that loud, and because of how loud it was, I just couldn't sleep because I was focused on that, and I just felt like, oh, because it's pounding this hard, then there's something wrong. There's just something wrong. There's just something wrong. And then there was this strange feeling. I just feel in my legs. It was like breeze, like some cool breeze would just flow all over my leg, and I get like goosebumps on my hand, and it graduated to the point where I was going to have panic attacks, and I'd just panic over little things. I'd panic over I'd go into a store to buy stuff, and I would see the price of items and I would panic. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'd panic over tiny things. I'd panic because um my son I don't know, it was just crazy. It was just so crazy. So it graduated, like I said, graduated to panic attacks, and these panic attacks were so bad because I would literally, it felt like there was just this burning sensation on my arms, in my arms, and it felt like all my mind interpreted to be was that my blood vessels were exploding. Gosh, my blood vessels were exploding, and I would literally have this pain, and the only way that I could get like some tiny relief, it was like, you know, when you grind pepper and put in hot water and it touches your skin, it felt like they injected pepper and hot water my into my bloodstream or into my skin. It was terrible. So a combination of that pain, the pain in my chest, it was god, it was unbearable. It was unbearable. The only way that I'd get some relief was to put some water in the bathtub, get into the bathtub and just stay there. And just stay there. Or I just soak a cloth in in cold water and just you place it on my skin, and it was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was really crazy. So I felt like I was just running mad. I'd go to the hospital every single day, every single day, every single day. And then doctors would tell me there's nothing wrong with you. I did ECGs upon ECGs upon ECGs, and I think I got some relief when a doctor finally told me, this is anxiety. There's nothing wrong with you per se. The symptoms you're feeling, there's nothing wrong with your heart. There's nothing we can really do, and all of that. So yeah, that was when I began to realize that it was anxiety that I was going through. And then I remember one of the times that I went into the hospital, and I had an interaction with the doctors because they had, my blood pressure was about 220, 230. I know, crazy. And they were really like trying to do everything possible for me. They were trying to do everything possible for me to be able to get out of the hospital, give me some drugs. God, there's so many things, there's so many days, so many things that happened. Give me drugs that day, and they were written on drugs to work 2 hours. They gave me another dose for another 2 hours. That's after I had been in the hospital since about 5 a.m. Yeah, 5 a.m. I had been in the hospital since about 5 a.m. and I did not leave the hospital until about 5, 6, 7 p.m. ish. So I was spending my entire days in the hospital because I just wanted to make sure that I was fine. I wanted to make sure that I had done something to make sure that I was fine. And also, yeah, after they had given me drugs like a couple of days, all of that, and I was feeling that pain in my chest, feeling the pain in my the brain sensation in my arms. And one of the doctors came in. She's actually Nigerian. She came in and she's like, "What's going on?" and all of that. And she spoke with me, and she's she because they were about to discharge me, and just it was still really high. It was 180. My blood pressure was still like 180. So they're about to discharge me, and she's like, she understands because she had given birth and she had gone through like some sort of anxiety, postpartum anxiety, some brain fog, with the brain fog and everything, and she understood what was going on. And then she's like hanging there. It was that bad. It was that bad. I felt hopeless. I felt like there was nothing left in this world for me. There was one of the times when I looked at my son and I'm like, "Goodbye, son." And it was really crazy. So she was like hanging there, and I literally just held on to that word. One of the times that I was in the hospital, that same day actually, they had to call in the psychiatric department. And when the psychiatrist came in, my son is looking for who I'm talking to. Nobody, my love. So when the psychiatrist came in, he looks at me and he's like, are these your clothes for going out? And honestly, that was the first time I looked at myself in weeks. And I looked at what I was wearing, and it was it was terrible. It was terrible. It was really terrible. My hair was a mess. I looked at myself, my hair was a mess. What I was wearing was so terrible. It was I was when it dawned on me that, oh my god, you're going down like a rabbit hole. I felt like I had hit like rock bottom, which I really had hit rock bottom. And yeah, that was when I just knew, and I'm grateful to God that I made a decision after all of those experiences. Felt really hurtful and bad, like the realizations that, oh my god, you looked crazy, I looked crazy, I looked like crazy little girl, crazy little woman, crazy little mother with a baby. And it made me realize that I needed to do things better. Not I'm going to get to how, but it made me realize that something had to change, and that the way that I was trying to get it to change wasn't the right way. So now let me talk about the importance of friends. And for someone who's going through anxiety right now, or just going through depression, or you're not being able to sleep, or you're having panic attacks and all, I want you to first of all realize that it's a gradual process to recovery. It's a gradual process to recovery, especially if you're depending on God to help you recover and get better. It's not going to happen in an instant. If there's anything I've learned in this period, it's that God is not a magician. God does not do abracadabra when he just does his hand and then something happens. No, if God wants to heal you, it's going to take a process, because he needs you to become a better person. It's not about the problem, it's about who you become at the end of the problem. So if you're going through depression, anxiety, having suicidal thoughts and all that, hold on, because God is going to do a work in you, and it's not going to be instant. It's painful and all of that, but it's not going to be instant. So one of the things that really helped me to get better is knowing and having this realization. And I did not come to this realization on my own. I had friends. Another thing that really helped me, is the fact that I came to realize that it wasn't just me going through things like this. I talked to a couple of people. I talked to some friends who had just given birth and they had gone through that. I talked to a particular friend, Vicky. I spoke with Vicky, and Vicky explained to me how she was going through something similar. And I mean, post-pregnancy with the blood pressure thing, and it just made me realize that I wasn't alone, and this thing was solvable. God made sure that he sent people around me to remind me. Although sometimes I'd misinterpret what they were saying and get into like a panic attack or into a frenzy where my blood pressure would just spike again and all that. But yeah, Yeah, God did send people. I had Jody and Samuel Bello, my friends, which I am, oh my God. If you have people like that in your corner, you are blessed. And that's how I know that I'm blessed, because I had people around me who literally were there with me. I had them. Um, there were times when it was really actually very serious that I had to go to the hospital, and there were like actual risks and dangers involved in all of the things that I was going through. And I'd have them on the phone praying with me hours. They'd pray with me for hours, and they'd just be on the phone praying with me for hours. In the middle of the night, Judy would be on the call with me, encouraging me, reminding me of things, reading scriptures with me. Sam would just be awake and just be on the line. Sam would just be awake and be on the line with me and pray with me, talk with me, remind me of things, remind me to be grateful, remind me. So I had people around me. So that's another thing. Do not isolate yourself. It's very easy to feel like there's a lot going around me. Oh, my life is about to end. Oh, one thing. No, your life's not about to end. You're not going through it alone. And open up to people. You'd be surprised how much sharing what you're going through is going to help you come out of it faster. Another thing is the fact that I just realized that I needed God. I remember the days when I'd be so tired. Oh my God. Having no sleep, like absolutely no sleep for days. I'd be so tired. And Sam would just remind me, be thankful. And ah, I was praying to sleep. Praying. Because for weeks I did not sleep. I was praying to sleep. And I'm like, God, what's going on? If I cannot sleep, let me just put down and sleep. Oh my God. And he'd remind me to be thankful. So I would turn on Lilian Ineji and I would dance for an hour. I would listen to messages. Yeah, these were some of the things that helped me reset my mind actually. Listen to messages, listen to Pastor Iran a lot, listen to them over and over, messages the entire day, read my Bible for reading's sake, not because I was understanding anything, but it was doing a lot on my mind. And I'm glad to say that gradually, I remember the first time I slept for, oh, so the reason why I couldn't actually sleep is when I close my eyes, then I just feel my heart pounding. It would pound and pound and pound, and that pain in my chest would just be there. And it's just as if as I close my eye and try to sleep, there's one demon that would just I'm sorry man, but just felt that way, like there's one demon that would just come and just start squeezing my chest, and it was crazy. We had to pray about it. Prayed about it, and yeah, I had to pray about it. I remember the first time that I slept for, I dozed off, because I wasn't even dozing off. You know when you say, oh, you do, no, I became very hyper alert, hypersensitive, that I was just conscious of everything around me. Like I didn't want to close my eyes and sleep, because maybe if I close my eyes and sleep, I would just die. My house would just explode or something. I won't be in control of what's going on. So I remember the first time that I dozed off. It was rejoicing. Sam and I did like a 2 hour praise and worship, and it was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was really crazy. I know I'm not going into much details here, but it was really crazy. Another thing that I want to talk about is family, and I want to talk about like this affected my relationship with like everyone around me, because I could literally see the fear in their eyes. They were looking at me. I was a shadow of myself, serious shadow. If there's anything was that shadow, I was a shadow of myself, and they'd just be looking at me, and I could see the pity in people's eyes when they looked at me and my situation, and it felt terrible. It affected me so much. I could see how it was affecting my husband. Oh my God. And that was the one that hurt me so much, that made me decide that, okay, God, what do you want me to do? How do you want to go about this? And yeah, I think one thing that you shouldn't do when you have like a mental health crisis is lash out or take it out on like the people closest to you. Be gentle. I know it's hard though, it's really hard, but it's doable. It's doable. It's a decision. Like, I also know that being joyful is a decision now. So you can wake up in the morning and you just feel so depressed. Flip it. Flip it. It's a choice. It's a choice. You choose to either accept these thoughts that are making you try to be depressed, or you flip it and create your own reality and be joyful, and decide that you're going to be joyful because of another set of things, so yeah, I'm grateful to God for what He did for me, especially with my husband. I could literally feel the wall between us grow like thicker and thicker through all of this, because he was really worried. Imagine you seeing like the person you love the most just being drifting away day by day and day by day. And I didn't really feel like I could talk to him then, but I realized that when I started to talk to him about things, it got better. Our relationship got better. And yeah, then my relationship with God, it got really much more solidified in this period, because there was a time when in the whole of the anxiety, I doubted. I remember telling Sam and Jody that I didn't feel like I was saved. I didn't feel like I was saved anymore, and it felt like I needed to do something to keep my salvation. And literally, I gave my life to Christ again. I gave my life to Christ again, literally. But yeah, when the devil tries to take advantage of things, which is what he does. If you realize, I didn't mention the devil in any of this. I know he had a hand, but I didn't mention any of it, because all the devil does is he tries to take advantage of things, and he tried to take advantage of this situation, by putting suicidal thoughts in my head. I'd go into the bathroom and want to drink toilet cleaner, open the windows, want to jump out, because I just felt like there was no point doing any of this. The painkillers were not working. The medication wasn't working at that point, and also I just felt like there was no hope, there was no way out for me. And that's usually what leads to suicide. um if you're feeling right now like there's no way out, I want to just put it to you that there's a way out. Look at me. I wish I did videos back then to show how I looked, or how I could express how I felt then. But look at me now. Like, I'm glad to see that I'm living a joyful life, an intentional life now. And I just want you to know that there's a way out. Speak to somebody. I know they say a lot, but yes, speaking to people helps. Because if you keep the devil wants you to isolate yourself, so that he would pick on you, because you're weaker when you're alone. But when you have people around you, you realize that you have so much ammunition around you. They remind you of things that you've forgotten. And yeah, so yeah, back to how it has helped my relationship with God. So I just realized that going through all of this has helped me put my total trust in God all over again. I trust God so much right now. It's a growing process. It's sometimes it doesn't look like it, but most of the time now I just remind myself that it's a process, and I'm going through that process of learning to trust God all over again. And I think that's the most important thing. That's the biggest blessing for me in all of this. I'm trusting God for everything, even the tiniest things that go on in my life. And I don't know if I went into as much details, or if I maybe if it sounds as serious as it was, but this video is just to encourage somebody out there going through suicidal thoughts, going through depression, going through anxiety, going through panic attacks, going through insomnia. And yeah, these are a list of few things I went through in my first trimester. And this video is just to remind you that there's a way out. You can heal, you can come out of it, and your life is beautiful. God has a plan for your life, and you can really just listen, and you'd hear what He has to say. But most importantly, just for you to know, especially if you're feeling suicidal, that there's a way out, there is hope. And trust me, I know that it doesn't feel like it. Trust me, I know it doesn't feel like it, but there's a way out. There is hope, and I hope that you come out at the other end of the tunnel where the light is. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to do more videos, maybe much more details about each of the symptoms that I had. And yeah, thank you.